for Dialogues. We are here at the Women's Ministry Quadrennial. I am delighted to be around these Reverend clergy sisters from the GDC area. So before we begin, I'd like each one of you to introduce yourself, beginning with Reverend Dr. Henry.
Good evening, everyone. I am Nordia Henry Dunbar from the 16th Episcopal District, specifically the Jamaica Annual Conference.
I am Reverend Dr. Manlini Annette Mafuko from the 19th Episcopal District. I'm the week president in the 19th Episcopal District.
I am Neil Ingram from Jamaica Annual Conference. I am the WIM coordinator.
So we have a variety of people in various leadership, and one of the things I know that you didn't mention, Reverend Henry, is that you are Reverend Henry Dunbar, right? But you said call me Nordy. But Reverend Balsall, we'll probably do Dr. Nordy or Reverend Dr. Henry Dunbar, depending upon how this works out. But you're also on the executive board.
Yes, I currently serve as a statistician for National AME.
Great. So one of the reasons why we wanted to have this discussion is to talk about a bit about the status of women in ministry outside the United States. I know sometimes we are a little bit 1 to 13 focused. And one of the things that I've appreciated about women in ministry is that it has done a really great job comparatively amongst other auxiliaries in ensuring that voices from outside the United States are heard and felt. So the first question that I would have for all of you, even though I know you and Reverend Ingram are in the same annual conference, is what is the status of women in ministry like in your conference and Episcopal district? And I guess Reverend will begin with you.
The status of the women in ministry in the 19th Episcopal District, it's really promising and improving because you realize most women coming together, worshiping together, and are able to remember that they are the sisters' keeper. They are not supposed to stay there and look at the sisters suffering. They must stand in the gap whenever there's a problem. And also, we have also grown in maximum participation. We don't have bystanders. We don't have people sitting there sitting with a red pen there, looking at another sister's mistakes. We are working together, assisting one another, and ensuring that whenever a sister lacks something, other sister will be able to jump in. And participation between the structures, we also have effective conferences, and we are now also active at connectional level. So we are able to say whenever there's a crisis, there's a sister to call.
So I'm at local, I know we were talking at the beginning that you currently are assisting at a church in Sharpeville, but approximately how many clergy women are at presiding elder level or pastoring local churches in the 19th?
Currently, we have 4 presiding elders, females, and each from each annual conferences, because we have 5 annual conferences. Mm-hmm. But currently, the Natal conference presiding elder is on sabbatical, so we don't have the 5th one at the moment. But each other annual conference has a presiding elder who is a female. Mm-hmm. And I can safely say above 90% of our female pastors have churches.
Okay. And so and how many of those female pastors, in like looking at the 19th district, about what percentage of the charges are pastored by women?
Currently, I can safely say from my heart, we have the scale of 70-30. 70% males and 30% females.
Interesting.
And most of them are in charges. And one thing that happened in the 19th is that we have now seen most female pastors also pastoring senior churches, A churches. Because initially, all the female pastors used to be the level setters or the ground setters, but now we've already started going up the ranks to go and pastor A church, B churches, and in all the spheres.
So to you, Reverend Ingram and Dr. Henry Dunbar, so what are your reflections on the status of women in ministry, both in Jamaica as well as the 16th district as a whole?
If I'm to use a word, that would be hopeful. Mm-hmm. Looking at the Jamaica Annual Conference specifically, and on a wider level in the 16th Episcopal District, we've seen a growth of women in ministry. Currently, in the Jamaica Annual Conference, about 93% of our women have a master's level degree in theology.
And we're going to take a time out because including one of the most recent ones right here, Reverend Neela is a proud graduate of what seminary? Payne Seminary. That's right. So go on.
Right, and not only that, in the Jamaican Annual Conference, the number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 churches are pastored by a female clergy. And that tells us that there is a shift, because 15 years ago, this was not the situation. 15 years ago, our presiding elder on board conferences were districts were male. The number 1 church was still male, the number 2 church. And so we're seeing a gradual shift. And I would not even use the word gradual in this instance. We've seen a big shift. And over the last 2 Episcopal conferences, the last 2 general conferences, we have really even seen greater shifts. So when you talk about women in ministry in the 16th Episcopal District and from the Jamaican Annual Conference where I reside, I'll tell you that the women are on the move. Ordained Reverend Ingram is a woman in ministry. The chair of the BOE is a woman. The head of the finance committee is a woman. So when you look at that, the major positions in the 16th Episcopal District are cared for by women in ministry.
So Dean Ingram, let's talk about this. So what has it been like? Because I know one thing that listeners are probably thinking about is like Jamaica, Caribbean, Africa tends to have very patriarchal contexts, male-dominated context. So Dean Ingram, what has it been like being the female dean of the Board of Examiners, and more broadly, being a female pastor in a country like Jamaica?
I concur with my colleague, Dr. Nardia. Like, say, 2015, it would have been different, where we were struggling to find our place. But today, I can say that we have found our place, and society is gradually accepting us as female pastors. So the criticism are down, and the whole say about women should not preach. I think that the entire nation has now been trained in such a way where they now understand that we have a role in society, we have a role in the church. And so the acceptance about, say, I would say 80%. It's coming. It's not there yet, but it's coming.
Mm-hmm. And also thinking about the South African context, what are your views about how women have been received as pastors?
Initially, we were all taught, or we were all socialized that the place of a woman is in the kitchen.
Mm.
But currently, we have seen a great growth in the church. We also have female pastors pastoring the rural areas. Even in the rural areas, there's a shift from that thing that women would not go to the graveyards, because remember, in the rural areas, there are also boundaries to say who goes up to where in the cemetery.
Mm.
But now it's open even for female pastors to go and be able to bury the members of their churches.
Wow.
And we also see a breakthrough as well with education as well in the 19th, because most pastors already have their master's degree in theology. We do have 2 pastors with their PhD in theology in the 19th. So also that direction is also very nice, and we see women are very determined to say, we are going to make it. Yes, it's not without a struggle, but we are on the right path.
I think you were about to say something. I heard a brief. Were we about to comment on that? Or?
And no, just to concur with that, overall, I've read a lot. I've seen what's happening in the Quadrennial Church, and to say within the GDC district 14 to 20, the women, I would say, climbing. There are so many prayers I admire. Dr. Betty, she's right here. To see they come with their PhDs, they come with their DMin, they come with their MD. Back in the day, it was not so. So women are really being recognized, and we're gonna get this just by overnight.
Mm.
We struggle to find to get our place.
Mm.
And now that we're at our place, we want to keep our place because God has ordained us to be here for such a time as this. And I'm grateful that the church that we serve, the AME Church, is now accepting us fully, and we're on the rank. Our bishops are with us, or the mayors are with us. We are coming together as a bond, one in Christ, in the AME Church.
Yeah, thank you all for pointing out that behind the camera we have another woman in ministry, Dr. Schroeder, who is helping out with assistance. But you won't see her in this broadcast. You'll see her in the WIM documentary that is being done with my colleague, Dr. Tyler. So we've talked about barriers and boundaries, but I know one thing, and I mentioned this with Dr. Goldman when we talked about the story of WIM, and one of the critiques of WIM has been that WIM, when it was founded, had a laser focus on leadership. And the apex of AME leadership is the bishopric. So one of the barriers that still has not been broken is electing a woman from a GDC area as a bishop. So what are your thoughts on that situation?
It's interesting that you asked this question because in 2026, and as we're about to approach 2028, which is 2 years from now, there's another general conference. I think that the time is right for partnership at all levels within this horizon. It's interesting and it is factual that the African Methodist Episcopal Church is made up of 20 Episcopal districts. And the African Methodist Episcopal Church has women and females. And for me, electing a female bishop is not electing a female bishop just because it's a female, but it's because we do have competent persons. And so I never want us to be misguided. I never want it to be misconstrued that if a woman were to be elected in 2028, it's because one, the person's a female, and two, they're from the GDC. I do not want that intersectionality to be that which is highlighted. It's because there is someone that is positioned for such a time as this, that comes with the gifts and the graces in such a time.
Who just happens to have a passport from another place.
From another place. And that's where we are now, because globalization is at its peak right now. It's the place where we've never seen it before. And just as a way that shifts with women in leadership and women in ministry, within this part of our zone, it brings us into a different discourse, one that ought to be had. Are we going to break that barrier? So we've already, women in ministry have been able to break some barriers. That's the women in leadership and how we represent. But now we look at the GDC. And who are we perceived to be? Are we seen as othered, or are we a part of the main group in African Methodism? And 2028 might be the time for us to speak. 2028 might be the time for the church to make it smart, to say who we are. Are we one Zion, or is it that there's someone on the periphery and there's a core? And then what does that mean? Then you will have to have a conversation as to what that really means.
I think there is I think the inclusion for the GDC district is coming in. For example, I'm a first time at this conference, and I was given the opportunity to preach this morning.
You were?
Yes, at the connectional meeting. So normally we would say, oh, District 1 to 13, but this morning, 16 district was on the platform. And that's something that to say we are now included, we are being included. So we are finally coming together as one. I wouldn't say we are there, but we are coming. It's that the progress, the work has started, the progress is there.
And I also believe that in addition to what Reverend Doctor said on my side, is that we need to accept women in ministry as persons who are called by God. We are not here just to close the gap so that the society would say we are accepting women and women are sitting there. And what we realize is that I've observed in the 90s, we also have now more male associates to show that gap of saying, what are these women doing? Are they not talking things that we don't want to hear? We see that we are now working together as a team. We don't see the males and the females, because initially there was that thing of saying, call that female pastor, but when you call a male pastor, they would not say, call that male pastor, they would say, call Reverend so and so. So that tells you that we are ready for any position in the church. You name it bishopric, you name it correctional officers, we are on top of things.
And I guess one of the things has been the barriers in terms of I've seen many good candidates come from districts outside the United States. And the fact that we have not elected a person outside the United States since 2004, we came very close in 2021 with Dr. Katoria Cooper, but we've not done that. And so what are there these barriers that are seen and unseen to persons from 40 through 20, and then on top of that, being a woman is that it also has its own challenges as well within the system. So what are some of the ways that we can let the talent from 40 through 20 be able to be seen at the connectional level for consideration, and not just as a bishop, but in all these important positions? Anyone want to take a stab at that one?
Well, I alluded to
I knew you were.
and alluded to it earlier that there is an intersectionality point where your location, where your passport is from, your gender, your Episcopal district, where those meet, it seems as though that group has been othered. However, just as the ways that we have had shifts in different areas in our zone, I think discussions like these become important because I suggest to you, Dr. Thomas, that there's some implicit biases that we have that at times you're not even aware of. And it takes intentionality. It takes discussion. It takes us removing the mask, the white mask that's there, and look at the reality of what is behind it. And so I'm happy that that question was asked because it begs of each of us why it is that we have not had a general officer, or why it is that we have not had a bishop since 2004. And so it invites us now at this point to prepare ourselves for the next 2 years. As a church, what will we be identified as? As a church, we are in this or Zion, what do we stand for? And if it's not called out, if it's not named in the voice of Bishop Cohen, they call a thing. And if we do not name it, if we do not identify it, if we do not bring it to order, then the silence seems as if it's consent. And being a part of the GDC, I know it's not consent. And it's going to take districts 1 to 20 to work together, because as I alluded to earlier, and my sister here alluded to, it's not academics. That's not it. It's not the ability to. It's, are we open? Are we have that shift theologically and conceptually to say that that which has not been done is able to, as our preacher said before, do not look at yourself as ordinary. And I don't think that anyone that will be offering themselves also from the GDC will be seeing themselves as ordinary. The question is, those who are looking, are they seeing them as ordinary? And that brings us into a wide discussion. Maybe one we're going to have to take after this. But it opens the door for us to have deeper dialogue as to why it is what isn't.
Wow.
And the importance of working together as District 14 to 19, ensuring that we do not bring each delegate from each annual conference to say we want the female bishop to be elected from 14 to 19, then we divide the votes. We need to work together and say, how do we make sure, how do we strategize this to ensure that at the end of the day, the Lord is ordained.
I would put my sisters that we need that shift in our conversation. It has to happen somewhere along the line, that shift, because as they say, what about competency? The sisters are PhD people, not even DME, they are PhD people. So we need to have that conversation as the AME Church, districts 1 to 20, not 1 to 13 and then 14 to 20, but districts 1 to 20.
But John, if I will just intersect though, I think we're there because in connectional we know there are 4 officers at the connectional level that are from the GDC.
Yes.
And I think this is just the beginning of what is about to happen. If I will get in my theological voice, I say God has spoken, God is still speaking, and God will continue to speak, and we shall see it. Because never before in the AME Church that you've got 4 connectional officers in an organization being from the global districts, and the best is yet to come. And I'll say this as a member of Connectional, all 4 are highly competent and are functioning. And so it tells us that that which was thought of no longer exists. And there are times when we are going to have to decide, and again, to call a thing, and know that through the past, we have our future, and that yes, that has happened, and yes, that was, but we're now in the now. It's a Rima.
Wow.
A Kairos moment.
I concur with my sister. That word.
So, staying in this moment for a second, pivoting, one of the things that has been sort of like, I don't want to say the elephant in the room, is where we are right now as the United States. And many of you were at General Conference in 2024. You've come back to a different country. At least pretty sure will look a little bit different. So what has it been like for you to be in the U.S. right now during this administration? And I know we were talking earlier offline about, some of the challenges you've had to get here, and other issues. So just what has it been like to be here right now from our global family coming to see us here? What is that? How have you felt that? What has it been like for you?
Well, it becomes apparent at this time, especially even now when we, as we're doing coordination, and many of our sisters that ought to have been here have not been able to come over because of restrictions. And John, I like your provoking questions because it really leads us into deeper discussions. And so we're here when no one from the 14th was able to be here. One of our sisters on the 18th wasn't able to come over from the 25th, from the 17th. And so this is Quad. General Conference is coming up. About Tuesday. I say that to say it's provoking because it makes us think of some of the limitations that we might have in another 2 years. But to your question as what it has been like, I don't live here and there's a difference with a resident and with a visitor. So as a visitor, I come in and I spend 7 days and I go. So to ask me what it has been like, for me now, it's no different being here. Coming here, there's a difference. Immigration. Yeah. So for me, there are certain ports that I don't even try to book a plane ticket to come through because I just don't have the bandwidth for that to go through that part of it. So for me, the issue becomes coming in through certain borders. Some are more lax than others, and it's an easier transit through. And so from that perspective, I can address it when it's coming through. But being here, it's no different for me than when I came in for the last general conference. I was here for general board or whatever conference it has been, because the people that you interact with are the same. The difference is coming through the border. But I like your question. I want you to well to deep, and even not with us, but even with others that be, what it's gonna look like when one person is told that you need to pay a 20,000 US bond for you to come over 15,000 when you know that they're present in the United States that for the year they don't have a net of 15 or 20,000, and we know the difference in exchange rates between the United States and a country, let's say that is in Western Africa or Southern Africa, and to put that on a person is really saying to the person that you've been denied before you have actually applied. And so what it is that the church is going to do is they're going to be a hybrid version. What are we going to do before this challenge become a problem? So right now it's a challenge, but it becomes a problem when we're at our next meeting point, and the same thing that's happening now happens again.
I will say, to answer that question, we actually do have an answer for that. It has not been announced yet formally, but I can tell you that from the from the General Conference Commission, they have had the discussions, and it would appear that we are putting the contingency plans in place for a hybrid. But that's not been announced formally, but the General Secretary has made it clear that she is concerned. The General Conference Commission is concerned. So we'll see when the formal announcement with what plan they've come up with.
Very fortunate.
But we don't see, because they know, they know, but we will see what plan they have.
And also, as we talk about earlier regarding it's not an officer from the EC or a bishop, that also affects us because when our people can't come to vote for ourselves, so 14 to 20, when we can't come to say we want that person. And so it is going to be District 1 to 30 is going to vote. They're going to vote for their people. But when we can't come to hear our own voice, it has always been a problem. And as we say, what will it look like in 2028?
And I remember 2021, some people said that was the fairest general conference because people, those who were elected to have seats at 14 to 20 had their seat. It wasn't, you didn't get a visa, so you can have your seat. No one was here. So there was no, I'm going to push out my delegates for those who have a visa. If you came, if you were elected, you had your seat. And in 2024, we had there was one district whose delegation was practically swapped out on the floor of the General Conference. And there was a discussion about, wait a minute, how did this happen? And so it seems like we unlearned the lesson that we need to learn again. And again, like I said, it hasn't been formally announced, but I know there are discussions that the General Conference Commission is having because this is a concern for us, and we already see it coming down. Well, and I know it's been a long day. This has been the first day of the conference for all of y'all. So really quickly, tell me, what has been a highlight for you coming together? And we'll start with you, Reverend Abrams. This is your first time here. What's been your highlight, aside from you preaching, during your time at the conference?
For me, coming here to sing on the choir last night was a highlight for me. To hear Dr. Murphy Mackenzie preach, Bishop, that was another highlight. This morning, the highlight. So there have been high points. It's good to see the people that I love. And when you come together again over a period of not seeing them. So I've had a few highlights.
So it's been a good reunion for you.
Yes, reunion, yes.
Yeah. So, Reverend Michael?
I must say the sermons were on fire, and also the interaction during the sessions. I saw maximum participation, and sometimes from the 14th to the 20th district, we always see the other sisters from 1 to 13 looking down at us. But I realized that now the skills are now equal, and we are able to communicate freely with one another without saying this sister's from down and this sister's from up, but we were all equal, and that made it to be very interesting.
Dr. Henry?
It said that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty.
Mm.
And indeed, with all these powerful women in ministry coming together in one place, bringing their God-given anointing, administrative skills, words of wisdom and empowerment, it has just been a pleasure for me to see women operating in their divine design, just seeing them, just the way they sashay down the halls. It's just a pleasure for me to see women in their fullness. And it would not be Nordicism if I don't mention the fashion.
Oh yeah,
the different clothing that are there.
Like this is the GDC, with GDC
all
outfit.
came out in a glam, and I've seen quite a few vendors there that I've been looking in my purse and trying to figure out where am I going to stop first. So part of coming to any AME event is to see who the vendors are and what you can get from it, and how that will fit. But in its truest sense, he's seen women operating the gifts and the graces that God has given to them, and knowing that for such a time as this and such an occasion of this, or 12th Quadrennial, that these women would have been able to travel from near and far to be together, to fellowship, to worship, and to empower each other. That for me, John?
Wow. Well, so thank you all for sharing time with us. Final thoughts before we wrap up. We'll begin with Reverend McLocal as district president.
Thank you very much, John. John, I would like to thank you for this opportunity, and I believe that everyone who's watching, everyone who's listening would understand that women in ministry is here to stay. We are not going anywhere, and we are to worship the Lord without any doubt. Whether there are obstacles or not, we know that our Redeemer liveth, and He will never leave us nor forsake us.
Well, in the Jamaica Conference, we are, women is 90% or so of the conference, women. One of the things that we want to go back and do is to get our women to formally recognize women and to be a part of it fully. So we have some work to do on that section to help the one to understand what women is and why we need to be a part of it. So far in the conference, everyone has joined the women, but we have many women ministry. So our aim is to go back and to get as much as possible to join the women.
All right, connection officer.
Women in ministry is not on the rise. Women in ministry has risen. So that which was dead, that which was crucified and buried, has risen, and it sits high, and there's so much more to come. Not only from the members of the GDC, but from women in ministry in general. And I am excited, John, to see what the next 2 years is going to look like for women in ministry. The partnerships, the networks, the yokes that will be broken. But more importantly, not even more importantly, most importantly, the lives that will be transformed and the systems the systems that would be modified.
Y'all need to go back and watch the first interview that we did with the president and the young attendee to take that context, take that comment fuller into context. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day. I know there's another thing you all love to go prepare for. Thank you all for watching. Again, you can follow the Women Quadrennial on the Women in Ministry Facebook page. There's a link to that in the email that you got. And just, women is not just for women in ministry. Women is for anyone who has a heart and a passion for uplifting clergy women. Thank you, ladies, for being with us. Thank you all for watching. And we will see you all again on another edition of the Christian Reporter Guide.